Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely.
All right. Today we're going back in time a bit, back to Victorian England with Charles Dickens' classic Oliver Twist.
Oh, Oliver Twist. Such a powerful story.
It really is. And, we've gotten some excerpts from the book, so
Yes.
we're going to explore those a little bit. And who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to read the whole thing yourself after this.
I hope so. It's a book that really stays with you.
Okay, so right away, Dickens kind of throws us right into the thick of it, right into this bleak world of the workhouse,
Yeah.
where Oliver grows up. And it's grim. Like, imagine this, right? It's Oliver's 9th birthday.
Ninth birthday.
But instead of cake and, the things you'd expect for a birthday.
Right. Presents, celebrations.
Exactly. He gets locked in a coal cellar.
Oh, it's awful.
Just for asking for more food.
Just for being a hungry child. Yeah, the scene is so important. It really sets the stage for, I think, how the whole system is designed. It's supposed to be a place of help, right? The workhouse. But it's actually a place of punishment.
Yeah. You really get the sense that they're trying to, I don't know, punish the poor for being poor.
Absolutely.
And then we get introduced to this character, Mr. Bumble the Beetle.
Mr. Bumble. Oh, he
is just a perfect representation of how heartless this system can be.
He's all about rules and regulations and appearances, but he doesn't seem to care one bit about the children.
No, not at all. It's like he enjoys having that little bit of power.
Oh, absolutely.
And you see that, especially when he's talking to, who is it, Mrs. Mann?
Yes, Mrs. Mann, the caretaker of the workhouse.
Right, right. And the way they both talk about the children they're supposed to be looking after is just, well, it's shocking, really.
They talk about them like they're objects, not human beings.
Yeah. It's like, don't cry into your gruel. That's a very foolish action, Oliver. I mean, come on.
Dickens is so good at using humor, right?
Yes.
But underneath that humor, there's this really sharp critique of society.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how we treat those who need help the most.
Absolutely. It's a question we're still grappling with today, I think.
Mm. And then it gets even worse, I think, when we see Oliver being brought before a magistrate.
Oh, that scene.
Yeah, to be apprenticed to a chimney sweeper.
A chimney sweeper. It was a horrible job, dangerous and dirty.
And they just talk about him like he's, I don't know, a piece of furniture or something.
They're deciding his fate, and he has no say in it whatsoever.
Yeah, no control over his own life.
Just another example of the power imbalances in that society.
It's heartbreaking. But, even in all this darkness, there's this little spark of rebellion in Oliver.
Yes, he's not just a victim.
He's not just going to sit there and take it.
Yeah.
And you see that when he's apprenticed to Mr. Sowerberry.
The Undertaker.
Right. And he has that run-in with Noah Claypole.
Oh, Noah. He's such a bully.
He is. Always tormenting Oliver. And finally, Oliver just snaps.
He fights back. It's a small act of defiance, but it's significant.
Yeah, it shows he has some fight in him.
Exactly. It's a turning point in the story, I think. It shows that he's not going to just accept the abuse anymore.
It's that spirit, that refusal to give up, that eventually leads him to escape to London.
To London, which, as we know, is not exactly a safe haven.
No, not exactly. He might be escaping the workhouse, but he's heading straight into the arms of, well, Fagin and his gang.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Right.
Yeah, pretty much. And Dickens does such a great job describing Fagin's hideout. It's hidden away in this, well, seedy part of London.
It's a vivid picture of the criminal underworld. And then we meet Bill Sikes.
Bill Sikes. Scary guy.
He's terrifying, brutal and menacing. And then there's Nancy.
Nancy. Yeah, she's a bit of a mystery, isn't she?
She is. She's caught in this web of Sykes's world. But you can tell there's more to her. There's good in her, too.
Yeah, you get the sense she's not entirely comfortable with the life she's leading.
Right. But she's trapped.
And poor Oliver. He's thrown into this dangerous world. And Fagin, he's so cunning, he starts manipulating Oliver. Gets him involved in a burglary.
Oh, that burglary scene. It's so tense.
It is. And it all leads to Oliver being captured, which is a bad thing. But then it also leads to him meeting Mr. Brownlow.
Mr. Brownlow.
Who turns out to have a connection to Oliver.
That's where the story really starts to get interesting.
It does. We start to learn more about Oliver's past, who he really is.
It's like a mystery unfolding.
Exactly. And then we get this new character introduced, Monks.
Monks, he's a shadowy figure.
Definitely. And he seems to have a real interest in Oliver. But it's not a good interest.
No, it's sinister, like he's hiding something.
It's like there are all these secrets about Oliver's past waiting to be uncovered.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too.
It's amazing how Dickens really uses Oliver Twist to make a statement about society, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really ignore it. It's right there in your face the whole time,
Mm.
especially when it comes to the workhouse system.
Right. It's like a microcosm of all the things that were wrong with Victorian England. The poverty, the hypocrisy, the way the poor were treated.
Yeah, it's not a pretty picture. And Dickens doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Uh-huh.
He shows us just how awful those conditions were.
Hmm.
The meager rations, the constant threat of punishment.
And the way the people in charge just seem to lack any empathy whatsoever. Like, remember Mr. Bumble?
Oh, how could I forget Mr. Bumble?
And his comment about Oliver being overfed, I mean, that just sums it all up, doesn't it?
It really does. It's this idea that the poor are somehow responsible for their own poverty,
Mm,
that they're lazy or gluttonous or whatever.
exactly. Instead of seeing poverty as a systemic problem, they see it as a moral failing.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's not just the physical deprivation that gets to me, it's the emotional aspect too.
Mm.
Like Oliver is constantly being reminded that he's an orphan, that he's unwanted, unloved.
Yeah, there's this real sense of isolation and loneliness that permeates the whole story. It's like Dickens is showing us the psychological impact of poverty, how it can crush your spirit.
It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? I mean, there are moments of kindness and humanity that shine through, even in the workhouse.
Oh, absolutely. Like, remember little Dick, Oliver's friend in the workhouse?
Yeah, poor Dick. Always so sickly.
But even though he's suffering himself, he shows such compassion towards Oliver. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there's still good in the world.
There is. And then there's Nancy. She's such a fascinating character, isn't
Oh,
she?
definitely. Caught between a rock and a hard place, as they say.
Right. On the one hand, she's loyal to Bill Sykes, this terrifying, abusive criminal. But on the other hand, she has this deep empathy for Oliver.
And she's constantly battling with her conscience, trying to figure out what's right.
It's heartbreaking. And I think it also speaks to the limited choices that women had back then.
Oh, for sure. Especially women in her position, you know, forced into a life of crime and with very few options for escape.
Yeah. But even though she's trapped in this world, she still tries to do the right thing.
That's what makes her so compelling. She's a survivor, but she's also a beacon of hope.
She is. And then there's the Artful Dodger. He's a bit of a rogue, isn't he?
Oh, he's a cheeky one, that's for sure. But he's also incredibly resourceful and loyal to his gang.
And you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him, I mean, he's just a kid who's been dealt a bad hand.
Exactly. He's a product of his environment, a reminder that social conditions can really shape a person's path in life.
And speaking of shaping paths, there's Fagin, the mastermind behind it all.
Ugh, Fagin, he's such a creepy character.
He is. He's so manipulative and exploitative, preying on the vulnerabilities of these young boys who have nowhere else to turn.
It's a chilling reminder that there are always people out there who are willing to take advantage of others, especially those who are desperate or naive.
Yeah. And Dickens really doesn't hold back in his portrayal of Fagin, but I also think it's important to remember the context of the time.
Right. Some people have criticized Dickens for the way he depicts Fagin, saying it plays into negative stereotypes.
And that's a valid criticism.
Yeah.
I think it's something we need to be aware of when we're reading books from another era.
Definitely. We can appreciate the artistry of the work while still acknowledging its potential blind spots.
Exactly. One thing I love about Oliver Twist is the way Dickens manages to blend humor and pathos so effectively.
Oh, he was a master of that. One minute you're chuckling at some witty observation, and the next minute you're heartbroken for these characters.
Yeah. And his language is just so rich and evocative.
He really paints a vivid picture of Victorian London. You can practically smell the grime and feel the desperation in the air.
It's amazing. But beyond all the entertainment value, there's a really powerful social message at the heart of Oliver Twist.
Oh, absolutely. Dickens was a fierce critic of the injustices of his time. He wanted to expose the plight of the poor and marginalized and inspire people to fight for change.
And that message is still so relevant today, isn't it? I mean, we're still dealing with poverty, inequality, exploitation.
It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to speak up for those who are voiceless and to work towards a more just and compassionate world.
Well said. One of the things that always strikes me about Oliver Twist is this idea of fate playing a role in Oliver's life.
Oh, yeah. Like how?
Well, it's like he's constantly being guided by chance encounters, both good and bad.
Hmm.
It's like bumping into the Artful Dodger leads him to Fagin and this whole criminal underworld. But then getting caught during that burglary ends up connecting him with Mr. Brownlow, who, has ties to his past.
Yeah, it's like all these twists and turns ultimately lead him closer to uncovering who he really is and finding where he truly belongs.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how much of our own lives are shaped by chance encounters, by things that seem random at the time, but maybe aren't so random after all.
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? The role of fate versus free will.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's not just about lucky encounters, though, right? There's also this sense of inevitability, especially when it comes to characters like Bill Sikes and monks.
Oh, definitely. Their actions, they kind of set them on a path that leads to their own destruction.
Yeah, like Sikes. He's driven by guilt and paranoia, making all these reckless decisions.
Exactly. And Monks, he's so consumed by his hatred for Oliver, he can't see straight. He's blinded by his desire for revenge.
And they both end up, well,
Meeting a rather grim end.
yeah, it's like Dickens is saying you can't escape the consequences of your actions, whether you call it fate or just the natural order of things.
There's a sense of justice being served, even if it takes a while.
And in a way, Oliver's journey reinforces that idea, right?
Mm.
He goes through so much suffering, but ultimately he finds happiness and security.
His story is really a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. He never gives up hope. He never loses his compassion, even when it seems like the whole world is against him.
Yeah. And it's that goodness that ultimately leads him to a better life.
It's a powerful message, isn't it? That even in the darkest of times, there's always the possibility of redemption.
It is, Oliver Twist is such a complex and layered story, and it's one that continues to resonate with readers even today.
It makes you think about the social injustices that still exist, the importance of empathy, and the power of hope.
It does. It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it, so if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking it out.
You won't regret it. And as you read, think about the questions Dickens raises about poverty, about justice, about compassion. How are those themes relevant to our world today? What can we learn from Oliver's journey that might help us navigate our own challenges?
That's a great point. It's been a fascinating deep dive into Oliver Twist, exploring its characters, its themes, and its enduring message.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy reading.